Thank you very much indeed. So welcome to code samples that compile even more easily than in my previous Lightning talks. So some of you may have seen me talk about writing .source.md files and embedding compiled code via snippet names, via snippet comments in the source files into documentation, running it through a tool called mdsnippets, and then generating .md files. Well, I'm happy to say that thanks to a recent improvement, you no longer need to maintain this pair of matching files. So no need now for .source.md. So I thought, well, in the comfort of my own home, I'd risk doing a live demo. And I needed to find an example. This is the kind of thing we're wanting to avoid. Users submitting pull requests for fixing typos in docs that didn't compile. So let's look at that in action. So I've got that chunk of source code here with a placeholder comment to help me find it. And this is what we want to generate from code rather than pasting it in the docs. And I had a search through the project code already, and there isn't a test that already exists with that code. So let's create one. And I'm going to use a lovely feature in CLion, a live template, to put my begin and end comments in. And then I'll paste that test code in, and I'll call it generators with sections because that's roughly what the documentation is talking about. So that's my snippet. And now I can go back to the documentation, and we've got no longer any hard-coded pasted in text. That's now what we add to the documentation. And then I shall go to the console in CLion and run the mdsnippets command, which is really easy to install. And now let's look at the difference. So here's CLion's diffing, and what has changed? Let's diff that file. So remember, I had deleted the source code from the Markdown file, and I had just put in snippet generators with sections, and running mdsnippets has added this extra text, and let's have a look at what that looks like. The other thing I wanted to show you is I'd created this configuration file that says to Markdown snippets that I want to overwrite the in-place generation. So let's quickly commit that, let's say generate docs, commit that, and let's push it to my fork of catch2 on GitHub. So that's pushed. So now let's have a look at that file, that documentation file on GitHub. So I'm going to scroll down until we see the code that we were generating. So here it is. So if we looked at the previous version, it didn't have syntax highlighting, and now it does. We got that for free. But the really important thing is that you can link to the documentation section directly via the anchor. But if your users of your project want to see that source code in context, they just click on that link, and there it is highlighted. And were anyone to change the source code of that test, then the next time mdsnippets was run, the sample of code in the Markdown would get updated automatically. You can use it to generate tables of contents as well, and lots of other lovely things. Some of you might be thinking, but what if I forget to run mdsnippets? That's a good point. You could add it as a pre-commit hook, or Simon Kropp, the author of mdsnippets, has documented how to create a GitHub action so that every time you push, your documentation is regenerated automatically. So we use it for approval tests for C++, and rather than retrofitting documentation like this, every time we add a feature, as we're writing the documentation, we plan that it's going to be used. Every time we write a test, we plan that it goes in the documentation. And that is how you get guaranteed working code samples and a way to see their context. Thanks very much.